Hey, two things in today's video. The first one, I'm going to teach you how to pause a project if a client hasn't paid an invoice. And number two, I've got a little gift from my friend Ruben Cespedes from Instagram, his new brand Minimalisimo. Let's open this and see what we got. Minimalisimo. Thanks for the swag, Ruben. And now let's get into the video for today. How do you pause a project when the client hasn't paid an invoice? Let's look at the decision tree of this. You land a project with the client. The first thing you do is send the first invoice, the installment, the first payment, so that you can get started on the work. I highly recommend that you do a first payment, especially with clients who you don't know and don't have a built-in trusting relationship with. Now, while you're waiting to collect money on that first payment, you can start working. I started a lot of projects without having the money in hand. I like to show the client that I have trust and faith that they're going to fulfill their end of the bargain. Now, with past clients where you've done a lot of projects for them, it's okay to start without having that money in hand. It's kind of offensive to assume that they're not going to pay and tell them, oh, I want that money. Give me that money and then we'll start. That's my policy. That can be offensive to some clients, especially big ones that have a big accounts payable process where they've got to run this invoice through the system and it's going to get paid out in net 15, net 30, whatever their AP standards are. So if you trust the client, you can get started. If you don't have a built-in trusting relationship, hold up right there and let them get that money paid before you get started working on the project. Now, one of two things is going to happen. The client is either going to pay the invoice and then it's like, yay, money, or they're not going to pay the invoice. And then you do this. You send message number one, and message number one goes like this. We love working with you on this project. Like any business, we have costs that we need to cover to continue production on your project without delays. When can we expect payments so we can keep production going? Now, one of two things is going to happen here. The client's either going to pay the invoice, yay, money, or they're not going to pay. And if they don't pay, then you send message number two, which goes like this. The project is going great. Unfortunately, we didn't receive payment on the day you committed to. Would you be able to make that payment today so we can keep the project moving forward? One of two things is going to happen here. The client's either going to pay your invoice, yay, money, or they're not going to pay, and then you're going to send message number three. Rather than to continue incurring further costs on the project, it will be best if we put the project on hold until payment is made. I hope you understand. One of two things is going to happen here. The client's either going to pay, yay, money, or they're not going to pay. And then you go to message number four, which puts the project officially on hold. The project is now on hold. We will provide new milestones after you catch up on payment. We love the project and hope to get restarted soon. One of two things is going to happen here. Yay, money, they're going to pay, or they're not going to pay, and then you've got a decision to make. The project's already on hold. You told them it was on hold. You can sit around and keep hoping that they're going to pay. You can send them to collections. Go hire a collections company to go and hound them and try and get them to pay the invoice. A collections company, I did this one time. A client owed me $17,500. They went bankrupt. We hired a collections agency to try and collect. It was going to be like 30% of the bill. So of the 17 grand, we were going to have to pay the collections agency like 5 grand of it. But they weren't able to collect either. And then you have the choice to pursue legal action, which I never did in trying to pursue a payment. What I preferred to do in most circumstances was just move on. They say you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. If the client doesn't have money, they don't have money. You're not going to be able to get it even if you take them to court. But court is going to cost you money with an attorney. It's going to cost you money to show up in court, to pay the fees you need to pay to pursue legal action. It's going to be may not be expensive, but it's going to cost you something, and it's going to cost you most of all emotional trauma, emotional stress. Do you want to go through that emotional stress? Is the amount of money big enough that you want to go through that piece? If it is, then do it all day long. Do it if you've been wronged by a client. For me, in most cases, it wasn't worth it. I just chose to move on with my life, accept it as a lesson learned, and move on. Now, this is how we pause a project. The client greenlights it. We send that invoice. If they have not paid, we want to pause the project, and you can do it using these 4 messages. Some of you might be thinking 4 messages, that's a lot. Just send them 1 message, just put it on hold, and that's the message. I prefer a little bit more diplomatic approach. Give them a chance to rectify the situation with message number 1 and 2. Warn them in message number 3 that you are going to pause the project. You don't have to just run right to the pausing of the project. Now, I do recommend, do not get too lopsided in the amount of work you've done versus the amount they've paid. So if you've done a lot of work and they haven't paid you enough yet, don't get too lopsided. Pause it quickly. But if you're comfortable expecting payment, it's okay to get a little out of balance there. Anyway, that's how you pause a project. Shout out again to my friend Ruben for his Minimalisimo brand and this new hat. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next video. Hey, if you want to learn more about running a creative business, I have a couple mega courses. They'll change the game for you on how to run your creative business. I also have a bunch of free courses. I also have a couple of books that I've written, Burn Your Portfolio and the Psychology of Graphic Design Pricing. And I got a couple other books coming in the horizon sometime. So check out all that stuff and give me a follow, subscribe on YouTube here. Thanks a lot. See you soon.